Hello again. I decided today is a good day to tell a story about the Ed that turned my whole life upside down, so let's get on with this. This happened 6 years ago. It was a week after my birthday and we decided to throw a late birthday party. My parents were busy with work on my actual birthday, so we rescheduled the party. I invited quite a few of my friends, but one of them didn't seem to show up. His father called my parents saying he'd be late to the party. The party was from 7 PM to 12 AM. He never showed up. Once the party was over, we were heading home. We're about 5 or 10 minutes from Oslo, cause we had the party at our lodge just outside the city, and talking about how fun the party was. That conversation was cut short when a vehicle drifted into our lane and collided with us. I blacked out. When I woke up in a hospital bed, I started to panic, but the doctor that was running tests on me to make sure I'm okay told me to calm down and that I was alright. After about 20 to 30 minutes of questioning and small tests, I asked the big question. Me, sir? WHERER my parents. The doctor basically froze there for 10 seconds and responded, and I'll never forget what he told me. Op, I'm so sorry, but your parents didn't survive the crash. My parents were deceased. I was informed that my dad was killed on impact and my mom was pronounced dead when she arrived at the hospital with me. I couldn't believe it. I wanted to cry, but all I felt was anger. I knew the person whom drifted into my lane was at fault, so I asked who crashed into us. It was my friend Dad, the goddamn edition. Apparently Ed was under the influence of something when he arrived, and is currently handcuffed to a hospital bed. One of the nurses told me later that he was demanding help before his son would be treated. His son that was on goddamn life support because of the accident. He was sent to jail for a DUI, and I don't know if he's been released or not, but if he's out there he better hope we don't cross paths. I'm currently living in a foster home with a wonderful family who treat me like I'm their own flesh and blood, but as long as I'm alive, I'll never forget my real parents, and I'll never forget my best friend, and I'll never forgive Ed for what he's done. Thank you for listening. I was playing with my 4-year-old daughter in my backyard. It was warm, so I was splashing water on her. We have an unfenced yard so several neighbors could see if they were looking out their window. A few moments later M walks up to me. M, you are disgusting. Me, excuse me. M, you have this girl running around nude, trying to seduce innocent young men. Me, what the hell are you talking about? She's 4. And she's wearing underwear. M, you are disgusting. My poor 16-year son stays away from sin. I assume she meant sex or porn, but who cares? And then you have this thing. She actually called her a thing, running around nude. Me, she is 4. And if your son is turned on by her, he is a pedophile. M, her 16 has a child. Children can't be pedophiles. If you don't put clothes on her, I'm going to call CPS. About 20 minutes the cops came to my home. My daughter was napping by this time. The officer said he got a call about a child prostitution ring. I explained everything to the officer and he agreed that the woman was insane. I asked if I could file a report against her son for watching my daughter, and he said there was nothing they could do. But we built a fence later that week. This was last summer. I haven't seen the family much since. Disclaimer, this isn't my story, it's a close friend of mine's. I'll be telling it from his point of view. For context, my mom, brother, and I all live in a trailer, a real dump, if you ask me. We hit hard times a few years back, and my grandfather had given us this place to live. Anyway, recently the 3 of us have been talking about moving into a house. So we had this family meeting to discuss it, where mom told us that she contacted a realtor and was putting her name down on a house lease that we'd all pay for together. Pretty normal family stuff. My brother, overjoyed by this turn of events, decided to tell his baby mama they aren't together, she just had his kid, about this new house and how their 5Y/O daughter would finally get her own room. He even sent her a link to the house. That's where the problem began. You see, BM just so happened to have an issue with this house. It had stairs. BM would say things to my brother, like what if our daughter falls down the stairs? She proceeded to freak out on the entire family, saying how dangerous this house was and how we couldn't move into a house with stairs. We blew it off like it was nothing, just figured she would calm down. Little did we know that she would actually call up the realtor and tell them a whole sob story about how bad we were and how we shouldn't be able to get this house, to the point that the realtor wanted all of our names on the lease and to charge us an extra couple $100 just to do that. On top of that, BM's keeping the daughter away from my brother and our family unless he takes her to court. She's not letting us see her at all because apparently we are irresponsible people. All because we want to live in a house with stairs. So yeah, she screwed us over. Update, I wanted to make some additions. 1. I shall note that daughter is a pretty healthy and intelligent kid. 2. We did tell BM about the baby gates. According to her, that was just unacceptable. She thinks daughter is too smart and could work around them, yet she thinks daughter's not capable of climbing stairs. 3. We agree that BM is being pretty manipulative by keeping daughter away from brother. She's not used to not getting her way and just had to throw a fit when no one in the family would take her side. 4. Mom broke her deal with the realtor as soon as they asked for more money. We don't know when the court will take place. It could be in a few weeks or months, but we'll still do our best to keep you updated. Samuel Jackson voice. I have had it with these Mathafrican Karens on this Mathafrican plane. Here's some background info. I go to university in Florida, but my family lives in New Jersey and I fly back and forth between the two a lot. So it was only inevitable that I run into an M on a plane at some point. One more quick bit about me before we actually get into the story. I'm 21 years old, but when I'm clean shaven, which is really rare, I look significantly younger, and it just so happens that I felt like shaving a few hours before my flight. This sounds like an obscure detail, but trust me, it comes into play later when Karen mistakes me for a teenager. Cast. Me, obviously. Karen, obviously. Far. Flight attendant. RP, random passenger on the other side of the aisle. AD, army dude. This happened in the first week of May when my spring semester ended. I never pay the extra money to choose my own seat, so this always results in me getting one assigned to me. I was flying with Spirit. I usually fly with them or Frontier, and this is how seating works for them. So most of the time I end up in a middle seat, since all the people who choose their own seats would obviously never pick that. However, I was lucky enough to score a window seat this time. This is an extremely popular opinion, but the window seat is my favorite plane seat. Enter Karen and her son. Karen looks exactly how you would expect, and her son is most likely no older than 8 years old. Neither of them made any effort to greet me or introduce themselves, which I didn't mind one bit, since I didn't try to talk to them either. I was already playing The Binding of Isaac on my Nintendo Switch with earbuds plugged in, which clearly signaled that I wasn't in the mood to socialize. My flight was pretty early in the morning, and I was tired as shit. Karen sat in the aisle seat and her son sat in the middle, between us. Now, for those of you who have never heard of The Binding of Isaac, it's an M-rated video game, and it does feature a decent bit of blood, but the graphics are very cartoony and mild. It shouldn't even be rated M, if you ask me. Although I have had people disagree with me on this, so maybe I just have really good tolerance. But not if you ask Karen. Cause about a half hour into the flight, I feel a tap on my left shoulder. I was sitting on the right side of the plane. I took my left earbud out and turned to Karen, and that's when this conversation started. Me, yeah? What's going on? Karen, excuse me, would you mind playing a different game? Me, why? Karen, my son is watching you play, and that game is creeping him out. It isn't appropriate for him. Me, it's the only game I have, so there isn't really anything I can do about that. Of course this was a cold-faced lie. Ask anyone I've ever talked to. If I have one defining characteristic, it's my active and enthusiastic hobby of game collecting. But Karen didn't need to know that. I just didn't see the reason to let the way I entertain myself be dictated by an 8-year-old, especially one that I've never met and never will meet again. Karen, sure there is. You can stop playing. Me, and sit here for 2 hours staring out the window with no other way to entertain myself? If it's all the same to you, I'd rather not. At this point Karen is starting to raise her voice. Karen, well it's not the same to me. You need to learn to be aware of children around you. Now, a bit more background information about myself. I spent a lot of my time growing up around my little brother and a lot of other children in my family who were considerably younger than me, and every time I wanted to do something I enjoyed, my parents would always make me dumb it down somehow because I needed to include the other kids. So long story short, I've really grown to resent commands like this, and hearing one from a stranger caused me to grow especially hostile. Oh yeah, and I hate kids. Me, no, I don't. Your son needs to learn that the world doesn't revolve around him, and not to poke his nose around where it doesn't belong. In hindsight I was a pretty big asshole, but I don't exactly have the greatest social skills in the world. Also, Karen was an asshole first and a much bigger one, as you'll see later on in the story, so I like to think I was justified. Karen, how dare you talk back to an adult that way? Me, I give my peers the same amount of respect that they give me. I've done nothing but sit here and mind my own business, and I would appreciate the same courtesy. Karen, I'm not one of your stupid peers. I'm not a teenager. Me, those statements contradict each other. I'm an adult too. Karen, no you're not. Me, are you trying to argue with me over my own age? Karen, then prove it to me. Of course, my first idea was to just say no and try to drop this foolish conversation. But then I realized that she would probably keep bugging me if I did, and my best chance at ending this was proving her wrong. So I took out my driver's license. I began to reach over to hand it to her, but I was barely halfway through the motion before she impatiently snatched it from my hand. Karen, this is fake. My husband is a cop. I'm having you arrested when he picks us up at the airport. Me, well it's real, so have fun wasting both of our families' time. Now, in Karen's defense, I was named after my dad, who was named after his dad, who was named after his dad, so my name does sound like that of an old person, and is very rare in my generation, so I guess it's somewhat plausible for her to think that I got a fake ID with an older person's information on it. Karen, no it's not. I bet you use this to get into bars just like everyone else your age. Me, well yes, I do use my ID to get into bars, and so do most other 21-year-olds, so that makes perfect sense to me. Karen, shut the fuck up you criminal. I'm not giving it back. Me, that's some intense language. You need to learn to be aware of children around you. Karen was clearly furious, but didn't even want to entertain me with a response, so I didn't say anything else either. At this point she was quite literally stealing my ID, and I obviously had to do something about it, so I decided to wait for a flight attendant to come by, so I could tell them what was going on. In the meantime I decided to continue playing the Binding of Isaac, knowing full well that this would piss Karen off, since it was the original root of the situation, and it visibly did. However, instead of saying something to me again, she decided to push the button that summons flight attendants. In hindsight, I should have done that when she stole my license, but I forgot that was an option at the time. I have my earbuds attached to the game as usual, but this time the volume is all the way down, so I can eavesdrop while looking like I have no idea what's going on. Enter Far. Karen, excuse me, that kid in the window seat is disturbing my son. Please make him stop. Far. Asterisk LOOKS at me SKEPTICALLY asterisk he doesn't look like he's disturbing anyone. Karen, yes he is. He's playing an inappropriate game and my son is watching. Make him stop. Far. There isn't a policy against video games as long as they're in airplane mode. If your son doesn't like the game he shouldn't be watching it. Karen is probably about to say something, but now I decide to butt in. Me, does that mean that there isn't a policy that allows someone to steal my driver's license if I'm playing a game that she deems inappropriate? Far. No, there's nothing like that. Me, well clearly she didn't get the memo. Far. Asterisk TURNS to Karen, ma'am, did you steal his driver's license? Karen, what? No. How dare you accuse me of such a thing? Are you really gonna believe a stupid kid over me? I give Far a smirk, and she shoots me back an understanding smirk. At this point she realizes that she'll need to appease Karen until the time is right. Far. Okay, ma'am. Give me a few minutes to speak to the captain. I'll see what I can do about your situation. Far walks away and comes back to our row a few minutes later. Far, there's a seat available in first class, or whatever Spirit calls those seats. I'm usually not allowed to usher passengers there, but we can make an exception after what you've had to deal with, Karen. Oh, thank God. This rotten teenager has been ruining my flight. Far, I wasn't talking to you, ma'am. *LOOKS over at ME sir. Would you like to move up to first class with no extra charge? I flash a douchy grin at Karen, then look to Far and subtly shrug as I say, me, well, if you insist, how can I say no? Far, great. And also, ma'am, it would probably be in your best interest to give him back his driver's license. Karen, he's lying. Why would I want a teenager's ID? Enter RP, who stands up and starts talking to Far. RP, excuse me ma'am, I've been listening to what's been going on. This woman demanded to see his ID and then loudly announced that she wasn't giving it back. Karen, he's lying. *TURNS to RP*, of course you would take his side, you sexist. Now shut up and mind your own goddamn business. Now 2 other nearby passengers stand up and start to take my and RP's side. And the best part? They're both women. Now Karen can't even play the sexism card. Far, if you stole his driver's license, please give it back before you create more problems for us and our passengers and get arrested for theft when we land in Atlantic City. Karen, you can't arrest me. My husband is a cop and he's waiting for me at the airport. Far, then can you imagine how upset he would be when the first thing he has to do when he sees you is arrest you? Now, please make everyone's lives easier and give the license back so that no other trouble has to start. Karen reluctantly gives me back my ID without even making eye contact. Far escorted me to my new seat next to AD. While I was on the way, she told me that I could probably press charges against Karen for attempted theft and disturbing the peace with her, Far, and a handful of passengers as witnesses, but I just shrugged it off and decided it wasn't worth it. Sure, Karen is a horrible person, but I have nothing to gain from having her arrested and disturbing the lives of the witnesses to possibly have part in a court case. Anyway, I sit down next to AD. He pretty much looks exactly how you would expect. In full uniform, buzz cut, the whole 9 yards. Of course, as soon as I sit down I shake his hand, thank him for his service, all that good stuff. I also apologize that I had to disrupt his privacy because of an AD *CHUCKLES*. Nah man, don't worry about it. AD was actually very interested in hearing about what happened with me and Karen. So I told him pretty much everything I've written above, and he got an absolute kick out of it. Turns out he had also been a pretty big gamer before going into the military, so we had quite a bit to talk about in the remaining hour and 45 minutes of the flight. That's pretty much the story. The rest of the flight was pretty enjoyable, kind of an anticlimactic ending, but oh well. I still don't regret not appeasing that brat. If you enjoyed the stories, slap the like and subscribe button for more of them, and don't forget to support the original writers with an upvote. Links are in the description. Peace out, and catch you tomorrow.